very good morning and welcome to my presentation. Today's class is about learning and memory. Introduction. Learning and memory are the two important psychological processes in our mind which has a significant influence in our behavior. We have seen that the biopsychosocial perspective, the biological, psychological and social factors which influence a human behavior. So in this class, we are going to see learning and memory, which are more or less a psychological processes happening in the brain, happening in the mind. Though it has some links with the biological process, that the human brain, it is mainly a psychological process. So today's class, we are covering the concepts of learning and memory. In learning, we are covering the concept, the types of learning, and the importance of learning. And memory, the concept of memory, stages in memory and the types of memory. And last, we are going to see the social perspective of learning and memory. So first, we are going to see what is learning. Learning is a process by which behavior is originated or changes through practice or training. So there are 2 points. A behavior is either originated or it is modified. And this modification is happening through practice or training. So 2 things are necessary for learning. Origination of a new behavior, and it has to be acquired through practice and training. So this is fundamental about learning, a behavior and practice. Now, we are going to see certain facts regarding learning. There are some features of learning. First of all, learning is a process. Process means it is a set of events which is producing a result. A set of events that produces a result. Eventually, learning is a process. It has the person who is learning has to undergo certain process. So that is the importance of offline education over online education. In offline education, when a child goes to school, he is experiencing school life. So this is a part of learning. This belongs to a process of learning. So that process is absent in online education. So in learning, we have to undergo a process, and that process is very important. The second thing is, in learning, the process is important than the product. The process is important than the product. As social workers, sometimes you may be asked to organize a community program. You may intend to collect 100 participants, but unfortunately, you may be able to gather only 30 participants. If you have applied all the techniques of social work for community organization, we cannot say that that program was a failure, because you have applied the process. You have learned that process. So learning the process is very important in any type of learning. And third thing, when we undergo this process of learning, it will have a benefit in our future. It is a very clear matter. Steve Jobs, while he was studying in Reed's College, decided to drop out of that college. However, he decided to pursue a short course on calligraphy. Calligraphy means writing words in a very decorative style. And after completion of that short course, he dropped out of that college. 10 years after, while he was designing his Macintosh computer, his knowledge in this calligraphy helped him. The Macintosh was having most attractive font characters when compared with the computers of that period. So a learning which he occurred 10 years before helped him in designing a new product. So that is what it is said. Learning is a process, and that process is of immense value. Now, next, we are going to see another feature of learning. Learning requires constant adjustment and adaptation. Learning requires constant adjustment and adaptation. Consider why we are learning to drive. We are on the road, a new environment, and it requires a lot of adjustments and adaptation. We have to notice each vehicle passing against and overtaking us. We have to take note of each passengers and pedestrians. So everything has to be noticed and observed, and our body movements will be very fast. Our hands must move between the steering and the gear. Our legs must move between the brake, clutch and the accelerator. So constant adjustment and adaptation. This is another peculiar feature of learning. It requires constant adjustment and adaptation. Next one is learning is purposeful and goal oriented. You might be observing the flux boards of coaching centers, IELTS coaching centers, UPSC coaching centers. They claim that if you join our IELTS academy, you will be in Canada or Australia within a year. So they are portraying a goal. They know that every learning has a goal. Every learner has a goal. So no learning is purposeless. Every learning has a purpose, a goal. That is another feature. Now, the fourth point is learning covers all domains such as cognitive, and affective domains of human. Cognitive, and affective domains. Cognitive means our thinking, imagination level. Cognitive means our actions, and affective means our state of mind. So, learning covers three domains of our three dimensions of human mind. For example, if we are we are learning a theory or a concept, it affects our cognitive domain. And if we are viewing a film, for example, JFilm is giving some insight regarding the caste system. So we are understanding the caste system through affective domain. We are having a learning through affective domain. And while learning to swimming, we are learning to swim. So in that situation, our actions, our body movements are required. It touches our cognitive domains. So sometimes good learnings, these three domains are affected. For example, if we are reading a book, Alchemist, while reading that book, you know about the importance of dreams in our life. It touches our cognitive domain. When we think about our dreams, it will touch our affective domain. And the dreams, when it inspires us for action, it touches our cognitive domain. So these three domains are affected while learning. So this is another important feature of learning. Next thing is learning is universal and continuous. Learning is universal. It is the general tendency of a person to learn. If you observe children, they will be asking a lot of questions. Eventually, asking questions is a type of learning. You might have seen this film, Indrajit plays the role of a teacher and he gives an assignment to a student to collect 101 questions and the child successfully completes it. So, learning, everyone has a tendency to learn. No one compelled us to learn how to operate a mobile. No one forced you to obtain a two-wheeler license. You do it by yourself because you have genuine interest in that. So people will learn things if they have interest in that. So that is the problem. While in school, some students are not able to study well because they don't find interest in their subjects. So learning is a general tendency. The interest has to be generated. Now, it involves all experiences and trainings of a person to help him to change his behavior. Learning involves all experiences and trainings. For example, if you are into the MSW course, you are pursuing the course for 2 years. You will be having field works, rural camps, day observances, theory classes, and various other activities. Every activities are intended to bring a change, a transformation in your mind. And it is aimed to transform you into a professional social worker at the end of the course. So all experiences involves learning. Then the changes in behavior may be either positive or negative. We can have a positive benefit or a negative benefit out of learning. For example, after learning to drive, you can effectively manage your time. So it has a positive effect. And while in case of rash driving, it is having a negative effect on your life. So the learnings can be positive or negative in your life. Next, learning does not include changes in behavior due to drugs, maturation, illness, and fatigue, etc. So this is not learning. Learning as part of maturation. Suppose a child who is entering into a stage of adolescence exhibits a new behavior, but that is as a part of his maturation, not as a part of learning. That is not a learning. And sometimes the aged people, due to the due to certain illness such as Alzheimer's, they lack their orientation and exhibit another behavior, a behavior which is totally different from their previous days. So such behaviors cannot be construed as learning. For learning, the active involvement of the learner through practice and training is required. So these are some of the facts or features related to learning. Now we are going to see the types of learning. There are 4 types of learning: verbal, motor, affective and cognitive learning. Verbal learning, we are learning a new language. For example, German, we are learning a lot of vocabulary. So such learnings comes under verbal learning. Motor learning, that is example driving, dancing, swimming, etc. Affective learning, that is inculcating a new habit or attitudes or interest, that can be affective learning. And cognitive learning, that is learning concepts, principles, etc. So these are the various types of learning. And lastly, importance of learning. What is the relevance of learning? I suggest you to read this book, Who Moved My Cheese by Dr. Spencer Johnson. Dr. Spencer Johnson has elaborately, briefly mentioned in his book about the importance of learning in our life. The essence of this book is the world is changing day by day. Change is inevitable in our life. So the success of a person depends upon how effectively he adapts to that change. And for successful adaptation of change, we require learning. Learning is very important. Let me say an example from my own life. During the initial periods of my teaching, I believed that the delivery of the knowledge to students was very important. So I was collecting various information from various sources and presented in PPT. So my focus area was what to teach. Now the teaching methodology has changed. Nowadays teaching is mainly focused on generating the interest of the student. So the focus has been changed from what to teach to how to teach. So my PPTs and my classes should be in accordance with that. If I am not able to understand this and update myself, my teaching will be obsolete within 4 to 5 years. So lifelong learning, LLL, that is the word used, is very much important in a professional life. So these are some of the facts regarding learning. Now let's move to memory. After learning, we move to the next concept, memory. What is memory? The power that we have to store our experience and to bring them into the field of consciousness, sometimes after the experience have occurred, is termed as memory. So what is memory? We are bringing experiences and events into our consciousness. We have seen the Sigmund Freud's 3 levels of human mind: conscious, pre-conscious and unconscious mind, where conscious mind forms a very small portion of our mind. So memory is the power that we have to store these informations in our consciousness. Now learning or experiences are preserved as memory images or traces in our mind called engrams. So in our mind, memory is stored like photos in the gallery of our mobile phone. Memory is stored in the form of engrams, images. The preservation of memory by brain or central nervous system is called retention. This is the process of preservation of memory. Now the stages of memory. Now we are going to the stages of memory. There are 4 stages in memory, that is learning, retention, recall and recognition. Learning means we are learning something, and it is a primary condition for memory. If we have to learn something, then only we could memorize that thing. So it is the prerequisite for memory. Our mind must register something, then only we could memorize that. The second one is retention. It can be revived when need arises. You have your fieldwork you have your rural camp in the last week. So if I ask something regarding the rural camp, you are able to remember everything because it just happened. You will be retaining much of its information. That's the second stage of memory. Then the next stage is recall. Recalling of all previous experience of an object or situation by just mentioning it. So after retaining, the memory goes to recall. For that, in recall, we need to have some clues regarding the object. For example, if I ask you to write or recite a poem by Robert Frost, you may be confused. You may not be able to remember. But if I give you a clue, the woods, then you might be remembering, I remember that. So you are able to tell the entire stanza, the woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, miles to go before I sleep and miles to go before I sleep. So when I give you a clue woods, you are able to recite the entire stanza. This is recalling. And the last one is recognition. Recollection is possible only at the presence of the object or situation previously experienced. For example, if you are seeing an old movie in the TV, after seeing some part of it, you may be saying, oh, I have seen this film in my childhood days. So after seeing some part only, you are able to identify or remember the thing. This is recognition. After recognition, we forget events. So these are the 4 stages of memory. Now let's see the types of memory. There are 3 types of memory: immediate memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory. Immediate memory is memory for a short time, forgets after a short period. It is for a short period only. For example, if you are registering for COVID vaccination portal, you will be getting an OTP. You will be remembering that OTP and just type that OTP for entering into that portal. As soon as we enter the portal, we forgets about it. Less than a minute, we remember that OTP number. This type of memory is called immediate memory. Next one is short-term memory, temporary memory. It has high retention time and low span compared with the immediate memory. It will last long if we rehearse regularly. You might have seen this film Ghajini. So the hero of this film has short-term memory. So what he is doing, he is scribbling important things in his body and in short cards, in small cards. So he is constantly rehearsing it for getting because he is having short-term memory. So this type of memory, if we rehearse it only, we could it could last long. And the last type of memory is long-term memory. It lasts for lifetime. Example, remembering our name, parents, etc. You may be having old parents, grandparents in your home, and if you interact with them, you could notice that they may be remembering their childhood experiences because it is in their long-term memory. They may not be able to remember the recent things happened because that is in their short-term memory, but in their long-term memory it is intact. They may remember their childhood experience and important events happened in their early life. So this is called long-term memory. So these are the 3 types of memory: immediate memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory. And finally, we are going to see the social work perspective of learning this learning and memory. First of all, social workers, we need to work with the children. So children may be having a lot of such learning problems. If you are appointed as a counselor in a school, children will be having a lot of learning problems. These issues will be of greater significance in school life. Some children may be having learning problems such as dyslexia, dyscalculia, etc. And sometimes the children may not be able to cope up with the aspirations of the parents and teachers. So these all are issues happening in a school. So social workers has to effectively deal with such types of issues. Secondly, helping client to adjust and adapt to a situation. Helping client to learn a new behavior. For example, if you are working in a de-addiction center, the client, we have to drop his alcoholic character, and we have to alcoholic behavior, and we have to inculcate a new behavior. We have to inculcate a new habit, new attitude, and new interest in the client. So the principles of learning is of immense significance while we are doing this. And the third and fourth one problems, which are somewhat similar, that is identifying dementia and other related disorders and facilitating rehabilitation and geriatric care. When we are when we are working with the aged persons, these memory problems will be a great issue. How to deal with the patients having memory issues, that is also very important as far as social workers are concerned. In Kerala, we are having that demographic problem. Soon we are having, Kerala will be an aged population. So the problems of the aged will be of immense significance. So in that situations also, the concept of learning, the principles of learning and memory will be applicable in the social work setting. So let me conclude. Learning and memory plays a pivotal role in the present world, and social workers must very well understand various dimensions and implications of these two factors in client systems. So social workers must be very vigilant in dealing with these populations, and we must be remembering these concepts, learning and memory, in our social work life. So for reference, you can refer Mangal SK's General Psychology and Elizabeth Harlock's Developmental Psychology. These are the two reference books which I suggest for further studies. So this is all for my class. Thank you for your patient listening.